The results are in for Jacob Markstrom's injury, and it's not that bad. And also, let's hear what Brenden Dillon had to say at a recent Devils practice. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, College Hockey Club play announcer, Devils Wire Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. When this episode goes live, the New Jersey Devils are scheduled to play the Habs in Montreal. But for the time being, we got an injury update regarding Jacob Markstrom. Then we're going to hear from Brenden Dillon at a recent Devils practice. And to close it all off, I will share some happenings around the league, including an update on a former Devils player. But let's start with the biggest news of them all, which involves Jacob Markstrom. If you need a reminder, in the previous matchup against the Boston Bruins, Justin Brazeau in the second period lost an edge, battling alongside Brenden Dillon, and he inadvertently clipped Jacob Markstrom's leg. Markstrom had to exit, and he couldn't put any pressure on his left side. Here's the official statement from the Devils. Goaltender Jacob Markstrom underwent imaging on Thursday, which indicated an MCL sprain. He will be out approximately 4 to 6 weeks. Markstrom will miss the remainder of the club's games leading into the Four Nations break. He will begin a rehab program under the guidance of the Devils athlete care staff. All right. Markstrom, by and large, has been the MVP for this Devils team. So far this season, he has a record of 21-9-5, a 2.20 goals against average, a 912 save percentage, 3 shutouts, and he has made a lot of godly saves to the point where he already has 3 or 4 candidates for save of the year. The big question is, how big of a blow is this to the Devils? Well, I just said he's been the MVP for this New Jersey team, so it's a tremendous blow. But it's not worst case scenario. And here's why. Amanda Stein, one of the team reporters for the Devils, shared this on social media and said, Devils have just 7 games left before the Four Nations break. That gives Markstrom an extra 2 weeks of break to rehab without missing any games. To go off on that, let's look at the 7 remaining games that the Devils have before the Four Nations break. They take on the Canadiens later tonight when this episode goes live. Monday, the Flyers. Wednesday, the Flyers. February 2nd, the Sabres. February 4th, the Penguins. February 6th, Golden Knights. February 8th, Canadiens once again. And then we head into the Four Nations break. So when I'm looking at the schedule for the time being, I don't want to underestimate any of the Devils' opponents. And I'm certainly not saying that all those wins are quote unquote gimme wins for the Devils, because it's never easy to win in this league. But I would say a good amount of them do fall into the favor of the Devils. I would say their toughest opponent during that span would have to be the Golden Knights, followed by the Penguins. I think the Devils have learned their lesson against the Flyers. I know the Canadiens have been really good in their past 10 games, but I think the Devils can handle them. Like I said, not trying to underestimate anybody, but if this did have to happen, at least it didn't occur during a tough stretch of the schedule. I think at this point, the Devils have hit a softer spot in their schedule. And people are wondering, like, how's the goalie dynamic going to work? Well, obviously, Jake Allen's going to be the starting goalie, but who's going to back him up? Isaac Poulter was recently brought up, and he'll back up Jake Allen for the next couple of games. But here's the thing, Nico Daws will remain in Utica, but it's projected he will be called up come next week. We'll see what happens. Poulter this season with the Comets, he has a record of 8-7-3, a 2.90 goals against average, an 897 save percentage. Dawes' numbers, no better, 4-12-1, 3.27 goals against average, 892 save percentage, and 1 shutout. But I want people to take note of this, which is Utica is not having a good season at all. They are second last in the Eastern Conference. So what I'm banking on is that Poulter and Dawes' numbers will be inflated a little bit more now that they're on a better team. And Jake Allen is also very solid in between the pipes, but I will admit, Jake Allen has hit a bit of a slump. Prior to the Bruins game, the last time Allen won a game as a starter was on November 23rd. He was on a 6-game losing streak at one point. Obviously, it was snapped against the Bruins, but he did not start in that game. He came in relief to replace the injured Jacob Markstrom. Allen this season, he has a win-loss record of 6-8-1, a 2.66 goals against average, a 904 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Here are my final thoughts on the matter. I know it's disappointing that Jacob Markstrom will no longer be representing Team Sweden in Four Nations. I was really looking forward to seeing how the dynamic of Markstrom in between the pipes would play a factor for Team Sweden, because I said it in one of my episodes that even though Team Sweden is not the favorites to win Four Nations, they're definitely an underrated unit. And I picked them to be my sleeper. I said I think Team USA is going to win it, followed by Team Canada. My sleeper would be Team Sweden, and my team that's going to finish dead last, has absolutely no chance, would be Team Finland. But I'm not really going to complain that Jacob Markstrom is going to use that time to recover, because at the end of the day, the Devils finishing the regular season strong is way more important than Four Nations. I'm a big fan of Four Nations, but I'm glad that Jacob Markstrom is now going to use that time to recover. The Devils have also hit a soft spot in their schedule. Are they going to win all these upcoming games? No, but I don't think they're going to be swept away either. I think the Devils can handle themselves just fine. Jake Allen is a solid goalie. He's a former Stanley Cup champion. I think Allen has been really good this year, and the reason he was on that lengthy losing streak is because he couldn't get any offense in front of him. The Devils, these last 2 outings, have been struggling, and I think they've wasted some good performances from Jake Allen. Most of those losses are not on his shoulders. And for Poulter and Dawes, I know when people look at their records and their overall numbers, people might be a little nervous and apprehensive. But keep in mind, Utica is second last in the Eastern Conference in the AHL. So I think if Poulter and Dawes are put onto a better team, those numbers will look a lot better. And we saw Nico Daws last season. We know that he has a bright future. His potential is rather high. So I still believe in Daws and Poulter, and I'm wishing Jacob Markstrom a speedy recovery. Take all the time you need, and I think the Devils are going to be just fine. I'm not freaking out, and I don't think you should either. All right, we're going to hear from defenseman Brenden Dillon momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has got you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Okay, Here's what defenseman Brenden Dillon had to say to the media after a recent Devils practice. We're going to react to that soundbite. Take a listen.
Those second and third periods, whether it was the ozone sustained time there in the second or it's just the defensive buy-in and the effort, especially in the final minutes, now that you guys had that success, how do you carry that into these next 2 games on the road?
It's the recipe right there. We kind of proved to ourselves that we can do it. Reproved, I guess. We've been talking about it here for a little bit. It's just really just trusting that we're a good team, trusting, when your line mates go out there, your deep partner goes out there, that you guys are going to be, at your best. It's no teams are going to take it easy on you. You see, Boston loses test, goes back and wins a huge game the next night. It doesn't matter travel schedule, the grind of the schedule, everyone's going through it. And I think for us, we're, again, a couple, 3-4 games and, so many days that we're going to have to really take advantage of this now, build off some success. It's nice to get a win, kind of relax and have a couple days in between games, but we're right back at it against a team that's been clicking really well here in Montreal.
Something we've heard a lot this season is about how intentional these practices are and how there's an effort there. And today's practice seemed really high energy, really fun. You guys were having a good time out there. How would you describe the energy that you guys brought to this practice session heading into this road trip?
Well, we won last game. You can tell. Guys are smiling. Guys are enjoying themselves. You're excited to get into the rink. You're excited to get back out and working. And it's a lot easier to work hard, when you're having success. So, by no means are we out of it. By no means is Montreal or Philly going to take it easy on us. We know we've got a tough little stretch here again, in whatever it is before the bye week and 4 Nations that we're going to have to take advantage of. And we just got to enjoy the wins, learn from the losses, and keep plugging away.
Here are my takeaways from that particular soundbite. The first thing that I have to say to Sheldon Keefe is that I commend him for shaking things up tremendously in the last matchup against the Bruins. That was much needed. Now keep it going. Don't go back to what you once had. Try to see what else can work and how you can get other players involved, because I think a good example would be Andre Palat. Remember, Andre Palat, the first few games of the season, he had nothing but goose eggs all across the board. So what did Sheldon Keefe do? In order to get Andre Palat going, he put Andre Palat on the same line as Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. And while he's not worth $6 million annually, this season, he has actually put up some solid, productive work. So I got to give credit where credit is due. I think a lot of people just don't like Andre Palat for the amount of money he's being paid, but I can't even take away from the fact that he's been putting up some solid numbers this year. And I touched on this point briefly in the prior episode, but I was rather impressed with the outing from Timo Meier. He had a multi-point performance. He got assists on both of Dawson Mercer's goals. And a lot of people have been forgetting about Timo Meier. I haven't really talked about him all that much on this show. I think Meier is due for another big game, and I'm glad that Keefe put him on the third line, because the Devils' bottom 6 production, it's been tough to come by. So putting Meier on the third line for a time being definitely can add that sort of jolt that they may need. And he even drastically put Paul Cotter and Nathan Bastian on the same line as Jack Hughes. Obviously, that didn't really last all that long, but I like the mindset. I just got to say that. I don't know how everyone else felt about it, but me personally, I get what Keefe was trying to do. At this point, the Devils seriously got to put their foot on the gas pedal, and they scored at least 4 goals for the first time since December 27th. I know I talked about it in a recent episode where the Devils need to start winning games in which they're up 1-0, because I don't think the Devils have won a game up to this point in which they haven't scored at least 3 goals, and that might be a problem come playoff time, because if you're playing the same team 4 times out of 7 in a series, they're going to start to nitpick you a little bit and figure you out. So that definitely has changed. But for the time being, it seems like the Devils' offense is starting to come back. And doing it against the Bruins, I think it meant a lot more than what people realize, just because the Bruins are a team that historically has been better than the Devils the past few seasons. That was the Devils' first regulation win against the Bruins since March 28th, 2021. And just to give you guys some extra tidbits, Kyle Palmieri, he scored the lone goal in that game. The Devils won 1-0, and Mackenzie Blackwood, he had a 40-save shutout. I will talk about Mackenzie Blackwood in the next segment, but just to jog your memory a little bit. And I also talked about this in the prior episode, but I think that big time win against the Bruins can sort of be like what happened in 2022, 2023, because I think a lot of people forgot that the Devils struggled mightily at one point. And I was there. This was during the time in which I first received my credentials. From December 9th, 2022 to January 6th, 2023, the Devils had a record of 3-8-2 during that span. But what snapped them out of it? January 7th, in a comeback effort, Damon Severson scored the game-winning goal in overtime, put the crowd into a lather, and after that game, the Devils won 4 straight. So I'm expecting the same thing this time around for the Devils, especially since they're going up against a lighter schedule. I think the Devils can repeat what they did during the 2022-2023 season, which is you have that big game that snaps you back to reality and you start to string together wins more consistently. But similar to what I said in the first segment, never underestimate your opponent, because the Canadians are 7-2-1 in their previous 10 games. Sheldon Keefe even said in a recent press conference that the Canadians are probably one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. But I want to reassure something to everyone. There's no drama in the locker room. Similar to what Dillon said during that soundbite, the energy is still at an all-time high. The guys really get along with one another in the locker room, and it seems like everyone isn't really freaking out. The Devils are still in the playoff position. So for anybody saying that the Devils aren't going to make the playoffs, the Devils are going to continue to go on a downward spiral, I just got to say this: pump your brakes a little bit and try to remain optimistic. The Devils are fine. They've just hit a funk, and I gave you a good example, 2022, 2023, when they had a franchise record in wins that year. They went on a big cold spell, similar to what's been happening the last few games this season. So I'm not freaking out, and I don't think anyone should be freaking out either, despite Jacob Markstrom going down with an injury. All right, we're going to close out this episode with some happenings around the league. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about Game Time. I love going to events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Now, Game Time has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I have actually used Game Time before to purchase myself some MLB and NBA tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time, everybody. All right, let's share some happenings around the league. The Islanders decided to sign Tony DeAngelo to a contract for the rest of this season. All right. I'm not going to speak on DeAngelo's controversy and things like that. People are entitled to their own opinions. I try to keep politics off my show because I know you guys listen to my show to get away from that sort of stuff. And I'm not going to make this an exception. But I will say this. Former referee Tim Peel put this out on social media and said that DeAngelo's played with 3 different teams in a 3-year span at one point. So he might be the problem and not just what he believes in. I don't know what Lou Lamoriello is thinking, but I just wanted to share my thoughts in that sort of aspect. And you guys make your own conclusions or narratives, whatever the case might be. Personally, I don't really see the point in it, but I don't cover the Islanders, so take it however you want to take it. Wow. As I'm recording this episode, a major trade just took place. I have no notes on this, but it's too important not to discuss because it involves a metropolitan team, and it's the Carolina Hurricanes in a 3-team trade. Bear with me. From Chicago to Carolina, former Devil Taylor Hall. From Colorado to Carolina, Mikko Rantanen. Yes, the same Rantanen that has put up 100+ points the past few seasons. He is now heading to Carolina. Martin Necas is rumored to be heading to Colorado. Rantanen is going to become an unrestricted free agent at the conclusion of this season, and it was rumored that he was demanding a lot of money, and I guess the Avalanche decided to deal him to Carolina. And I know a lot of people wanted the Devils to reunite with Taylor Hall, but even I said it seems like a pipe dream. This is just incredible for more reasons than one, because it's going to unleash Pandora's box, if you ask me, because we've been talking about JT Miller. Where's his home going to be? I don't really know. What are the New York Rangers going to do? But more importantly, what are the New Jersey Devils going to do now? Because the Hurricanes recently just surpassed the Devils in the Metro. The Hurricanes are second and the Devils are third. And after this trade, I think the Hurricanes are going to go nowhere but up. I'm sorry. But now can Fitzy make a big move of his own to try to help the Devils just get some sort of reinforcement? Because the Devils just need some more depth scoring. I'm flabbergasted. We're still weeks away from the trade deadline, but we already have a major blockbuster 3-team trade. Rantanen to the Hurricanes. I did not see that one coming, and Carolina just got even more dangerous. And for right now, the Devils do not have to face them, but that might change come playoff time. I don't really know. But like I said, no notes for this. I'm going to talk about it in a future episode because I think this triggers a chain of reactions, especially for the Devils, because what do the Devils do in response so that way they can also improve in the Metro? I'm curious. Mackenzie Blackwood, he was recently traded to the Colorado Avalanche, and I didn't really get the time to talk about it all that much, but I really want to give credit to Mackenzie Blackwood and how he sort of revived his career, because he was traded from the Devils to the Sharks, and the Sharks were putrid in his first year there. In fact, they're still not really all that great. I know Macklin Celebrini, he's phenomenal and all that, but it's going to take a while before the Sharks are relevant once again. And I even said that Mackenzie Blackwood, he didn't deserve that Sharks situation. He deserved to be with a playoff caliber team to really showcase what he's capable of doing. And he recently signed a 5-year, $26.25 million deal with the Avalanche, meaning that the Avs believe in him. And I'm really happy for Mackenzie Blackwood. I don't know about you guys, but I really wanted to talk about it on the show, but I didn't really get the chance to. Mackenzie Blackwood, I know it didn't really work all that well in New Jersey. Expectations were at an all-time high. He's dealt with several injuries that have kind of derailed him a little bit. I'm sure it took a hit on his confidence, and once his time with the Devils ran out, we knew that he was not going to come back. It was time for a change of scenery, and he found a home with Colorado, and I'm really happy for him. Now, do I think it's a bit of an expensive deal? Yes, it is. But Mackenzie Blackwood does have his name in the running for the Vezina Trophy, similar to Jacob Markstrom. Now, barring anything catastrophic happening, that's going to go to Connor Hellebuck. But just wanted to give credit to Mackenzie Blackwood and just say that I'm really proud of him, and I'm glad that he found a new environment in Colorado. And to share my final thought as to what's been going on, let me just say this about Shimon Nemec and the whole trade circumstance. I don't think Nemec wants out of New Jersey, and I don't think the Devils are seriously going to deal him away. I talked about it briefly in my collaboration with Trevor of Locked On Canucks. I think something just got lost in translation. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all I'm just going to say. And I'm going to leave it there. I think Nemeth is going to remain in New Jersey unless the Devils are given an offer that they absolutely cannot refuse. Could he be involved in a hypothetical trade for JT Miller? Hey, anything can happen, but I really don't see it happening. All right. Leave your thoughts below. What are your thoughts on Jacob Markstrom and his injury situation? What were some of your takeaways from the soundbite I shared from Brenden Dillon? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again.